coming. We're gonna start. I'm Michelle.
And I'm Michelle.
We want to say a few thank yous. Of course, thank you to Ellen for coming all the way. I wanted to share this short story. To everyone, just like the story of how I got Ellen to come here. Ellen doesn't know this herself, but I met this mentor through Wix, Women in CS, and we were sitting and having coffee one day, and she was like, you know who's super cool you should invite on campus? And I was like, who? And she was like, Ellen Pao. And I was like, and so she was like, why don't you just send her an email? So we were like, okay, and then we found someone who knew someone, and then I was like, hey Ellen, wanna come? And she was like, yeah. And so, I mean, now she's here, and like, that's the power of asking, of like daring to ask, and that's something that really motivates me. Like, now if I want to meet someone, I'll just be like, hey, I would love to meet you, and there's a chance that they would say yes. And so that was very empowering on my end, and I'm super grateful that Ellen's here. And we have a few more thank yous to go around, so Michelle will take off.
Yeah, hi, I'm Michelle. So we just first wanted to thank Stanford Office of Student Engagement for making this happen, as well as the core team from Stanford Women in Computer Science, Stanford ACES, and Stanford Women in Design. So Stanford Women in Computer Science works to promote and support the growing community of women in CS and technology. We raise awareness about the issues that women in the field face and provide opportunities for educational and professional development. ACES is Stanford's global entrepreneurship group. We host speaker series and provide opportunities and educational programs on entrepreneurship, design, and venture capital to challenge members to think beyond Silicon Valley and solve global problems. And Stanford Women in Design explores cross-disciplinary ventures through the lens of design. We aim to empower women through inspiring skill development, career mapping, and learning through the self-pursuit of innovative new projects. And I would now like to introduce our moderator, Susanna Benavides. Susanna is a transfer student, mother of 3, and a current senior in the computer science department. Her focus in artificial intelligence is fueled by the importance of a diverse set of perspectives shaping the algorithms of tomorrow. Please welcome Susanna.
Thank you, Michelle. I'm honored to introduce our speaker today. In 2015, Ellen Pao stood a powerhouse Silicon Valley venture capital firm, calling out workplace discrimination and retaliation against women. Her suit rocked the tech world and exposed its toxic culture and homogeneity. Though Pao lost her suit, she revolutionized the conversation at tech offices, in the media, and around the world. In Reset, she told her full story for the first time. The daughter of immigrants, Pao was taught that through hard work, she could achieve her dreams. She earned multiple Ivy League degrees, worked at top startups, and in 2005 was recruited by Kleiner Perkins, arguably the world's leading venture capital firm at the time. She did everything right, and yet she and other women were excluded from success, cut out of decisive meetings and email discussions, uninvited to CEO dinners and lavish networking trips, and had their work undercut or appropriated by male executives. It was time for a system reset. After Kleiner, Pao became CEO of Reddit, where she took forceful action to change the status quo for the company and its product. She banned revenge porn and unauthorized nude photos. In action, other large media companies followed and shut down parts of Reddit for online harassment. She and 7 other women tech leaders formed Project Include, an award-winning nonprofit for accelerating diversity and inclusion in tech. Please join me in welcoming again, Ellen Pao. Ellen, I'd like to kick us off with a few questions, if that's okay. First of all, I think for anyone here that doesn't know about Project Include, Can you tell us a little bit about how it came about, and also what are effective ways in which you've seen organizations push back against biases and effectively work towards inclusivity?
Yeah, so in 2015, I had been asked to resign from Reddit, and I took some time off to kind of decompress. And then I started to get back in touch with people, and I would have like a lunch with one person and a dinner with another person, and we had all the same frustrations with what was going on in tech at that time. So 4 years ago, I don't know if you remember, but a lot of companies were putting out these press releases like, we've had this unconscious bias training for an hour and a half. We had this, kind of academic-y person come in and talk to us about our biases, and now we are diverse and inclusive, right? So 45 minutes of training and we are all good. And there was press release after press release. And we're just like, wow, this is not solving the problem. And it's really kind of disrespectful to the people in these companies and in tech to have these press releases saying that these companies are inclusive. And eventually I gathered a group of us together, and 8 of us sat around and talked about like, well, what would make a company diverse and inclusive? It's not, unconscious bias training on its own. What are the other things that companies should be doing? And we came up with, I think it's 87 recommendations, and we put them together on a website, and we talked about like the broad themes. Like, one, it has to be inclusive of everyone. There was a lot of programs where it was like, all right, we have binary gender that we're focused on, and we're going to include a few more people, but we're going to leave out a lot of people, and we're going to leave out this idea of intersectionality, where people who belong to multiple groups are often discriminated against in a way that's compounding or exponential because of the way people have biases. So the second factor that we wanted to make sure people understood was that it has to be comprehensive. So it's not just about going out and recruiting some people and throwing them into a company. It's really about thinking about the whole employee life cycle. How are you paying people? How are you promoting people? How are you giving people opportunities? How are you measuring people? And making sure that every part of that set of interactions is fair. And then the last piece was, metrics, like holding people accountable. So thinking about like, where are you on diversity? What are your demographics? How does each group feel about the company, and different, what's the satisfaction level in a bunch of different areas, so that you can see where there are people who may be part of a company but don't feel included. So how can you really think about that from end to end across the whole organization and over time?
Love that. And in your book, Reset, you spoke beautifully about your realization that the workplace was not a meritocracy, and that as a woman of color, the odds were stacked against you. That it was even more so for Latinx and Black engineers. Thank you for stating that in your book. Can you speak more on this?
I think that it's very easy for people to focus on including women. It's I've heard from different VC firms, like the push for diversity comes from these men having daughters, and they look at how they're treating women, and they're like, whoa, I don't want my daughter to be treated like this. And then so it becomes this very much like, I'm going to bring in, white women, I'm going to bring in maybe Asian women, but I'm not going to include anybody else, and I'm not really creating an inclusive environment because I'm just opening the door open a crack, and I continue to have these structures of exclusion. Even when I bring women in, like Kleiner, I'm not including them in everything because my model is very much about exclusion. And it's not until you start thinking about everybody and thinking about the people who are having the worst time, who are getting paid the least. If you can focus on them, and if you can solve a problem for Black women, if you can solve a problem for Latinx women, usually everybody else, does better too, because you're solving like the worst, hardest parts of the system failures by focusing on the people who are treated the worst by the system.
And I'll follow it up with, do you have recommendations for women of color, people of color in general, to form a sense of belonging at work and at school when the diversity numbers aren't large enough for an affinity group? And conversely, do you have recommendations for members of the majority as to how they can ensure that they're promoting inclusivity?
It's hard. I think there's more awareness now. So I think there are, when I come to talk at different schools, people are like, well, this situation is bad, it's not good. If you talk to people in companies, there's still like a segment of people who are like, things don't need to change, everything's fine. And everything's on fire and people are leaving and, and you've got like women who are, suffering mental breakdowns, but they're like, everything is fine. You've got like an exodus of, at one company I was at, like, one after another, all the Black employees left. They weren't having a good experience, but, there's still a set of people who think it's fair and everything is working. And that's part of the problem in really trying to figure out, like,